All right, let's welcome our guest for this hour. We have with us criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. And let me just say this, you know, in this cross-examination, I think it really boils down to the question for the jury. Was he hit by a car or not? At the end of the day, that's an issue. Where do you think the Commonwealth stands on proving that?
Well, I think there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that he was hit there in the yard with the blood in the snow, the tail light pieces, and you know, the circumstantial evidence of her driving or somebody driving around that time. So they're doing a pretty good job of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So I think there's some strong evidence developing that yes, there was a collision there at the house.
Sam, I would agree. And I'm saying at this point in the trial, in the first trial, I didn't feel as clear on that being the case as I do now. I don't know what it is, but I feel much more clear. What do you make of the cross-examination of this witness? Because really, it feels like there's been this ebb and flow with Alan Jackson. It's like he'll go after some witnesses, a lot of energy, a lot of indignation. Now he seems to be sort of calming down a little bit. Do you think that's in response to maybe some reactions that people have had to him, or it's just a natural ebb and flow of a defense attorney? Some witnesses require it, some don't.
It's an ebb and flow. You know, this isn't a witness that you're going to make a lot of headway attacking their credibility, unlike perhaps Ms. McCabe, who's not a professional witness, hadn't had experience testifying. I think also you have to consider that he's trying to lay out a story about the crime scene. His best point that I saw was that parts of the taillights were found several days after. So kind of sloppiness in the collection is probably the best point he can make through these witnesses. But I would definitely make those points and then get out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what he's doing. And remember, according to the defense's theory, those pieces of taillight were planted.
Right, and remember, the defense still gets to get into Proctor, who we know is no longer with the police department. We know there was an investigation, all kinds of bad things coming out of him, and I think that might help the defense as well. We'll have to wait and see. Sam, stand by, please. We are going to take a break. When we come back, of course, we're going to go back into this courtroom so we can hear more testimony. Stay tuned.
It's so interesting. All right, let's bring back in our guest, still with us, criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett. And Sam, you know, this is, again, one of those cases, we've said it 1,000 times. You know, there's so many little things that build up and make you question what you're hearing. You hear this testimony, it seems pretty simple. They come to the scene, they find these things. It seems to point to the idea that there was some sort of incident with the car, right? But then you think about the photos and where the little pieces of red tail light are. You start thinking about the fact that this is 12 to 15 hours after. It was like a perfect storm of events, that this snow came along, could have been a plow, maybe that was the issue, why the pieces seem in this weird place on top of the snow rather than under the snow. All these things, can't find the black cap. All those things just make it difficult for me to buy the story of the state.
Yes, it's like, no pun intended, but it's the perfect storm of a crime scene. You have snow, you have darkness, you have a delay. You know, in the investigation of a crime, the integrity of the crime scene is so important. If you remember the OJ trial, that was one of the worst preservation of the integrity of the crime scene that had occurred in a high-profile case. In this case, you have the delay, and then you have the snow, then you have the darkness, and then you have, you know, not taking a photograph of the taillight for comparison quickly enough. There's a lot to point to by the defense that could have been handled better, perhaps, but there's also just the coincidence that there happened to be a massive snowstorm going on at the time these pieces of evidence were theoretically dropped in this yard.
So let me ask you this. I want to turn back my attention to Karen Reed herself. How much does it make a difference if a jury decides they like or don't like a Karen Reed? Because the reality is the messages, what she said, how she acted, a lot of people are going to find that she's not likable. Does that influence a decision?
Absolutely. Rarely will a juror tell you after a trial, oh, I just didn't like your client. But I promise you, that kind of lays a foundation for an emotional trend in the way you're evaluating evidence. If you find somebody as a defendant that you just don't like, or you find offensive, or you find rude. So absolutely, it plays a role, even though rarely a juror will admit it.
And it shouldn't theoretically play a role at all, but I think it does, especially in this case.
I mean, you listen to her on those voice messages, you think to yourself, she might be someone capable of what the state is claiming she did.
Right, you're right. And that
right
motive, yep, it fits into the motive, even though that's not an element.
All right, Sam, stand by. We're going to take a break. Coming up, Court TV's own Matt Johnson joins us live from Dedham, Massachusetts with all the latest from inside that courtroom. So stay with us. We'll be right back.